We should never have dug. What we found beneath the ice was not of this world. It was a horror beyond all explanation. For years, the East German government forced us to keep silent, to bury the truth along with what we saw. But I can no longer remain quiet. It's time for the world to know what we truly awakened there. I always knew the Harz Mountains in East Germany held dark secrets. Rumors of disappearances and experiments never ceased to haunt my mind. Now, in 1994, I was ordered to investigate a newly formed crater, supposedly caused by a meteorite. When I received the order, the first thing I did was summon my 5 best men, those I truly trust. We had been together on missions that took us to the brink of madness. We saw things no man should see, women and children used as test subjects, dismembered bodies. But something told me this would be worse. As we prepared to depart, a high-ranking general stopped us. He brought with him a man I didn't know, an older fellow around 50 years old. His appearance caused me a mixture of mockery and distrust. I couldn't help it. I said to the general, "Sir, with all due respect, where did you dig up this old geezer? I remind you that this mission is for elite soldiers, not a trip to a retirement home." The general looked at me sternly and cut me off. "Show some respect, Schmidt. This is the renowned Dr. Müller. I'm not asking you to take him. I'm ordering you to." I had no choice. So we boarded the helicopter, heading towards the frigid Harz Mountains. Something in the cold air told me that what we would find there would surpass any horror we had seen before. The helicopter ride to the Harz Mountains was a 3-hour torture. It's not the first time I've faced the German winter, but this cold seemed determined to seep into our bones. Upon arrival, the pilot informed us that we couldn't land because the trees blocked the area. "We'll have to descend by ladder," I ordered. My men who were to descend already knew the protocol. It wasn't the first time we had to improvise. It was then that Dr. Müller, that useless old man, comes out with the fact that he has a back pain and can't climb down. I wanted to tell him to go to hell, but instead I cursed under my breath and told him to climb onto my back. We descended together, with the wind lashing at us like a storm of knives. Once down, the helicopter dropped a supply box. It had the essentials, rations, communication equipment, digging tools, everything needed for a mission of this type. While music, before I could react, the helicopter disappeared. I tried to use the radio to contact command, but the thing didn't respond. We were cut off, screwed, and without transport. We had no choice but to camp in that place and think of some strategy. We all felt it. That mountain didn't want us there. We spent the night in that damned place, enduring the cold and thinking about what we could do. At that moment, Dr. Müller, as if he had no idea of the mess we were in, made me nervous. I couldn't help it. "I know, Doctor, I know. Let me think about how we're going to make the next move." The next morning, I decided there was no time to waste. I ordered the soldiers to break camp and head to where the meteorite had supposedly fallen. The journey was a true hell. The snow was thick, the terrain uneven, and the cold cut like knives. Halfway through, Dr. Müller tripped and lay in the snow, complaining that he couldn't go on because he was tired. Then, without an ounce of shame, he asked if someone could carry him to the crater. My men looked at him with contempt and refused, so I cursed under my breath again and said, "Climb on my back, Doctor." After another 3 kilometers of suffering, we finally arrived at the site. As soon as he saw it, Dr. Müller shouted with excitement and ran towards the area where the meteor should have fallen, but when we arrived, there was nothing, just an empty crater. "What the hell is this? Who brought us to this damn place? There's nothing here," I shouted, while the doctor examined the area. Then he said he had found something in the center of the crater. Apparently, there was a layer of ice hiding something underneath. What the hell does this damned old man want now? I cursed to myself. Dr. Müller ordered us to start chipping at the ice and digging. Grudgingly, we all took up the tools, ice picks and shovels, and started working. As my men dug, the doctor approached too close to a crack in the ground. One of the soldiers, Weber, shouted to warn about a possible collapse. We all jumped and got out of the area, but the doctor had ignored the warning. Just when the worst happened, the ground began to break beneath our feet. Weber lunged at the doctor, grabbed him by the arm, and threw him towards the safety of the snow. Seconds later, the pit opened up and swallowed him. From the surface, I counted about 15 seconds before hearing the impact at the bottom of the abyss. "Well, it seems to be quite a deep hole," said the doctor with a smile that made my blood boil. I couldn't contain myself. "You damned old bastard, because of you one of my best tactical men died down there." But the doctor just looked at me coldly and replied, "There's no time for laments, Captain. We must go down as soon as possible." Nervous about having lost one of my men, I knew we couldn't afford to stop. We had to continue with the mission. I ordered one of the soldiers to prepare the harnesses to descend into the hole. If we were going to finish this, we would do it quickly and carefully. While the men prepared the equipment, Dr. Müller approached with that arrogant attitude of his and said to me, "I'll go down first." I looked at him with contained fury. "Damn, old man, don't even think about it. You're staying up here. I'm not going to lose another man like I lost Weber." The doctor grumbled, but in the end accepted to stay up top. With the equipment ready, we descended into the hole. Darkness enveloped us as we slowly descended. The air became heavier with each meter. Upon touching the ground, the first thing we saw was Weber's body. It was shattered, broken bones, brain matter scattered everywhere, and a pool of blood around him. His legs were in an unnatural position. I approached and, with a lump in my throat, murmured, "For you, soldier," before getting up and moving on. As I observed the place, I realized we were in a huge tunnel that extended towards the bottom. There we saw a faint light, so we headed towards it. When we arrived, we discovered something I didn't expect. It looked like a laboratory, but not like any I had seen before. This place was equipped with strange machinery of a design that made no sense. There were strange symbols everywhere, like ancient seals. What caught our attention the most were some display cases containing unknown artifacts. One of the soldiers, Fischer, couldn't resist the temptation and took one of those artifacts. It was lightweight, with a button in the center. When he pressed it, the thing began to emit faint lights and a dull hum. Seconds later, a blinding flash blew us away. When I rubbed my eyes to regain my sight, I saw something that left me frozen. Another of my soldiers, Bauer, was on the ground, carbonized. Only his blackened bones remained. Fischer, the idiot who had touched the button, stammered that it could be a weapon. I couldn't contain my rage. "Damn fool!" I yelled at him. But before I could say more, Fischer started screaming in pain. His hand, the one that had touched the artifact, began to heat up. In less than a minute, his hand was completely carbonized, and the fire traveled through his body, consuming him until nothing remained but ashes. Panic took hold of me. I shouted at everyone not to touch anything else and ordered them to get out of there immediately. We ran towards the hole we had come down through, but when we got there, we noticed that the harness we had used to descend was broken and lying next to Weber's body. We were at the bottom of that damn hole, with Fischer's carbonized corpse and Weber's remains beside us, when suddenly we heard Dr. Müller shouting from the surface, "Bunch of naive idiots." All of this was a gift given to me by those from outside in exchange for some favors I had to fulfill. I felt my blood boiling. I shouted up at him, "What the hell do you mean by that, Müller?" With a voice that no longer hid his madness, he continued, 3 years ago, I found an artifact in this place while conducting research. It emitted a strange sound that took me months to decipher. I tried everything, until it occurred to me to try Morse code, and I succeeded. It turned out to be a message with a location and a request. Bring 2 human beings to this place. If I followed their instructions, I would receive a gift in return. I was frozen as he kept talking. I accepted the deal without hesitation. I came with a team, but when the ship appeared, I knew I couldn't share this discovery. So I shot my companions and handed them over. A great light came out of the ship, enveloped them, and sucked them in. When the light went out, I thought it was all over, but seconds later it turned on again, stronger, and created this crater. I never knew what they left me, but the last message I received spoke of alien gifts, and from what I believe, they are weapons of mass destruction. Rage and desperation mixed inside me as he revealed the true intention of the mission. So, all of this was a trap. You just wanted to recover those weapons and sacrifice more people in exchange for more technology, I shouted, barely containing my fury. Dr. Muller let out a laugh that echoed throughout the crater. And then, from the sky, an immense shadow began to materialize. It was a ship the size of a football field that floated above us like a damn alien god. The ship was suspended about 20 meters from the ground, and the beam of light it emitted started to lift us. First, the 2 soldiers went up. Then it was my turn. Before losing contact with the ground, the last thing I did was grab an ice axe next to Weber's body. As I ascended, I saw how the first soldier, who was closer to the ship, began to disintegrate. His body was turning to ashes while he screamed in agony. With all my strength, I hooked the ice axe on the edge of the hole, slowing my ascent. Above me, the last soldier struggled to survive. I grabbed him by the leg with one hand and said, "Easy, I'll get you out of here." But the light intensified and I saw how the upper part of his body started to burn. His screams were unbearable. Desperate, I heard Dr. Muller celebrating from above, laughing like a maniac. Rage completely overtook me. I apologized to the soldier as I let him go. With both hands, I felt an inexplicable force emerge from my chest, fueled by the anger and pain of having lost all my men. I lunged with the ice axe, coming out of the light and falling heavily in the snow. As I caught my breath, I stood up. But before I could take another step, I felt a sharp pain in my leg. I turned just in time to see Dr. Muller. Stabbed with an ice axe, he then fled into the thick snow, screaming in pain. I grabbed the handle of the ice axe and pulled it out of my leg, feeling the blood start to flow. In the distance, I saw the doctor running and, without thinking twice, I began to chase him. As I ran, I cursed out loud, swearing I would kill him if I caught him. Finally, Muller began to slow down. Exhausted, I took advantage of the moment and launched myself at him, tackling him with all my strength. I threw him to the ground and, blinded by rage, began to hit him over and over. Between blows, the doctor screamed for me to stop, that we could share the gift that was down there, but I didn't want any of that. I already knew what was there, and I didn't want to be part of that madness. Muller, desperate, tried to bribe me. "I'll give you money, anything you want," he said, but my response was clear. "Shut up. All the money in the world won't bring my men back." Fury consumed me. I grabbed his arm, and with all my strength, broke it. I didn't stop there. I pulled hard until I ripped his arm off completely. With the doctor writhing in pain, I lifted him and dragged him to the beam of light. "Take this piece of trash," I shouted. His body was enveloped by the light, and instantly it went out. The nothingness that until that moment had remained visible began to become invisible again. A hum resonated in the air, followed by a flash of light, and it disappeared. Exhausted and bleeding profusely from my leg, I fell to my knees in the snow. I knew I didn't have much time. I took the belt from my waist and made a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. With my vision blurred by pain and exhaustion, I collapsed alone in the middle of the relentless cold, agonizing in the snow with my leg shattered and bleeding out. A damn traitor. An hour passed when I heard the sound of propellers approaching. A helicopter descended and 4 soldiers came out to help me. Before collapsing, I told them with a thin voice, "You took your sweet time. I've been waiting for over 10 hours. One of the soldiers in a low voice muttered, "I think the cold froze his brain." Rage overtook me, and gathering what little strength I had left, I grabbed him by the uniform. "What the hell?" he responded. "Captain, you were missing for 2 years. We only received the distress signal 3 hours ago." My mind couldn't process what I had just heard. 2 years. It couldn't be. As I tried to assimilate it, I felt my vision blur. Everything turned dark as I fell unconscious from blood loss. I woke up not knowing how much time had passed. I was in the military medical ward, surrounded by doctors. As I looked at my body, I felt something was missing. One of the doctors approached and explained what I feared. I had lost my leg. The femur was shattered by the ice axe blow, and the environment in which they found me had worsened the situation. After explaining, the doctor left, leaving the room in silence. It wasn't long before the general entered the room. "How do you feel, Heinrich?" he asked, as if he really cared. I replied that I was alive, but sad for having lost my entire squad because of Dr. Miller. The general made a gesture of pity. "It's a shame what happened, but that doctor's only job was to bring back that merchandise." I looked at him furiously and fixed my gaze on him. "You scoundrel, you knew what we were facing." The general didn't flinch. "Of course I knew, but it was a simple mission. Bring that back and return." Nervous and enraged, I shouted at him, "One of my men died disintegrated just by touching one of those weapons." The general fell silent, surprised by my words. His tone trembled slightly when he asked, "Did you say weapons? How many were there and what types?" I looked at him with teary eyes, rage mixed with helplessness. "The whole world is going to find out what happened, and you, General, will be the first to fall." His expression changed instantly, showing contained fury. "If you mention anything, even a word, you'll end up like trash." I tried to grab him by the uniform, ready to hit him, but at that moment, 2 soldiers entered the room, intimidating. The general approached and with a cruel smile said, "You'd better try to recover your life, the one you lost 2 years ago." Then he took a photo from his pocket and showed it to me. In the image, I saw my wife, or rather my ex-wife, smiling with 2 children. "I see she's been very busy making a life for herself," he commented maliciously before leaving the room. Time passed, and little by little I rebuilt my life. I kept this secret with me until my deathbed, because now I have nothing left to lose. That's why I'm telling you what really happened on that tragic day.